Hey guys, it's Johnny Candido of Candido Training HQ. Today's video is going to be an extension of the previous one I made about my back injury. So the first one went over some basic principles like the biopsychosocial model. It went over tracking out of 1 to 10 how I felt in terms of my mental well-being and physical pain, and then also on doing isometrics and then extending how long I do them. So that's basically a short summary of it, but I strongly recommend you watch that video if you haven't already. Now, if you've noticed that the audio quality has been a little bit worse in these past few videos while back in Ohio, that is due to the TSA messing up my $90 microphone within 10 seconds of interacting with me. So anyways, the focus of this video is on how I progressed, focusing on the lifts themselves and on doing more back dominant movements like that snatch grip deadlift that you guys saw, the 480 pounds for 5. Actually moving towards trying to hit some PRs there. And of course, squatting now, I'm squatting 4 plates if you follow me on Instagram. Whereas before I was squatting 315 almost all the time. So now it's a matter of building up performance without having it reoccur and without having it become an issue in terms of performance also. I'll summarize this into 3 steps that help me personally, and perhaps if you're in a similar situation, it might help you as well. The first one is a 3 bad workout rule. So what I mean by this is that if I had 3 straight workouts in which I felt discomfort that was notable enough to where it got my full attention, and that's all I needed, my full attention for a few hours, I could feel better every single time. I actually did feel better the next day still. But if I knew I was focusing on that and it was the type of discomfort that it doesn't detract your monthly progress or even weekly, like I said, the next day not even, but it makes you make irrational decisions in that moment. That's the best way I could describe it, where you're gonna crack your back in a way that you know you probably shouldn't even try that, but you're just feeling off, so you do it anyways. That type of sensation. And if I had that 3 straight workouts, I would make myself take a week off, and then I would have to adjust my training. I believe potentially on a mechanistic level. Now, of course, who really knows what the truth is for this, but to me it felt like all my back issues now feel more like general inflammation, and they're not specific points. So it's not just one position I get into and then all of a sudden there's a trigger. More, it's just a carryover among all this. So that's why I think that this hardline rule is a lot more effective now. For example, on the squat frequency, it would be lowered from 2 times a week to 1 time a week, something like that. So by making that rule, what happened is it actually helped alleviate some of the stress because I no longer was focusing on how I was feeling every day. So that was a really huge part, is I shifted the focus away from rating myself out of 10 because that was becoming less useful, and now looking at it the opposite, where it's just all about the bottom line, almost imagining like a pro NFL player where it's just a matter of you either clock in or you don't, and it's just a job. And just imagine you're a manager of yourself as an athlete, and all you do is you just want yourself to show up for that workout. And that really helped because that helped avoid over-analyzing every single day, every single little possible upper back crack, thinking if that's something more severe. You just say, okay, will it affect the next workout? We'll just see. And if it's 3 straight, then we'll adjust. And also, I found that what it did is on the second workout, if I felt bad 2 straight workouts in a row, it actually motivated me to make smarter decisions. Because then I got kind of excited, like, okay, let's make sure I prove myself. It was like the game was on the line and time to prove it to myself, and then I could just continue training normally. Also, funny enough, the one time where I actually had to do this was with a sore knee. So this is also a big thing, is that of course once you have an injury, then you can compensate. And then, for example, in my squat, I'm starting to become too quad dominant to the point where it's unsustainable. And this was really starting to become a mental hurdle for me because, of course, once you've already had one injury, then the narrative in your head is saying, hey, maybe you have an MCL injury for this, when it ends up being just nothing. But since I had those 3 straight bad workouts, and one of them I actually showed, the 3rd one, on my channel, and I didn't even talk about it. What I did is after that 3rd bad one, I just simply added a leg press day and removed the squat workout. I took a week off, and then I started with leg press, and then I went back to squat, but just at 1 time a week. So just making that decision completely solved it. And that's all it took, was just having some hardline rule where I'm not rationalizing with myself, where I'm not constantly overanalyzing how I'm feeling at every moment. Because then sometimes when it comes to performance and pain, now you're having so many variables that it's so easy to rationalize anything that you want and then end up just saying screw it and putting yourself in a bad position. Ironically, when you have a compensation soreness, discomfort, pain, and let's say for my knee, and then I have my back, of course. Then what's funny is that once you have that third joint also have pain or discomfort, that's actually very relieving, because then it's like, okay, that's reassuring, because now I know this is just training, as long as my training volume is fairly moderate. But it's funny that we have almost this narrative, I think, once we get hurt, that then you imagine training beforehand was just perfectly smooth, nothing gets sore, like as if you're either pain-free or you have an injury that's permanent. Whereas then you realize, like, okay, yeah, I remember just training in general has ups and downs, random ankle soreness, things like that I just almost forced out of my mind just with this perfect picture I have. My second point, and this one is very basic, but it's something that I did not do, and it's very hard to do, is to keep some of what worked initially in that. So for example, in my first video, when I went over isometrics, I went over walking, all these basic things, to keep some of that, so just one or two of those things, and still do that every day, but with zero progression. And this is something that it's a completely different mindset as against what most of us as lifters strive for. We always try to look for progression, but for myself, what I found is walking 10 minutes at 2.5 speed on the treadmill every single day, or at least every day I'm in the gym, and not going for more at this stage, is incredibly useful. Because now, not only, before I could have progressed, and let's say I was walking 15 minutes and then maybe even 20 minutes, or maybe mixing in some running, but then once you're involving performance now, I actually have numbers that I need to hit rather than numbers that I might want to hit at any random date. The fatigue might add up, and maybe walking 10 minutes, given everything else also adding up, now that might be progress, because now it's not just walking 10 minutes and I could skip bench if my back's just not feeling it. It becomes a lot different once you have a schedule. So that was one of the toughest lessons for me to learn, because right away I went to just dropping all of those basics and trying to work on more complex things, but then that backfired, and then I would go back to walking, and then I'd want to walk for 15 minutes and I feel worse on the 12th minute, and then realize, since I'm doing more total workload, I need to just stick to one baseline and stick to it even though it's not exciting. And that's why I think it's so important to then also drop the amount of exercises you're doing, because you have to be realistic. I'm not going to do a side plank, a regular plank. I'm not going to walk and then do two more things and do that every single day. But I'm going to walk 10 minutes every day, and then that's it. Now my third final point is kind of the opposite side of the spectrum to this, is to do that one basic thing, one or two basic things that has proven to work, and then start expanding finally into something that is either a new range of motion or it is something that you've been sensitive to before. So it's desensitizing. For example, for myself, it was rotation. So with spinal rotation, it was at a point where it would be sensitive getting up out of bed when turning to my left side on a day where otherwise I feel 100%. So before, it just wasn't worth doing, because I thought, the isometrics felt good, and that was true. And like I said before, the dynamic work actually did not feel good unless I did it completely unloaded and in a way where there's really almost no resistance muscularly. But I've now gotten to the point gradually where I can, and what I found to be incredibly important was to do it with as small of a range of motion as necessary. And this is something that I honestly would not have believed that would be effective, is that my range of motion on spinal rotation is so small, doing the oblique exercise basically, and all I do is I just bring one leg, the opposite leg, to the midline, and then the other leg to the midline as I'm rotating, and that's it. I don't cross over the midline with that opposite leg. And it's such a small range of motion, but it's unbelievable how effective that was. And now getting up out of bed, I never have that sensitivity point. I think it's extremely important for me to emphasize this, that this is timely. Had I done this earlier, even doing it smarter, it still would not have been appropriate in my opinion for even the first 8 to 12 months. So this is only to the point where I'm so comfortable with how I feel day to day that I can say, okay, now I can make sure I'm comfortable with doing a little bit more of a dynamic range of tasks. Because eventually you do reach that point where your spine, even though you want to keep it neutral, of course when lifting, but day to day you're not going to keep it neutral. It's not a series of joints that stays neutral. That's just not how real life works. You know, you can't just drive yourself nuts and always avoid playing with dogs, for example, just because you're going to be rotating your torso too much. So overall, those 3 points have been the most important for right now. You know, that's what's appropriate at this point in time. This is well after the injury, but it's right in that midway point where I feel like I'm getting close to being entirely over it, but at the same time, there are some days where I can definitely tell, you know, it's still lingering, but there's really no range of motion now, as long as I'm on top of everything, that is uncomfortable. And that's a fantastic feeling. You know, it's such a relief. But I know I have a lot of followers who've messaged me either on Instagram or even email or in the YouTube comments saying that they're going through similar situations. So that's why I want to keep making these videos, because I do want to be as explicit as possible in terms of what I'm thinking and explaining everything for my situation. Of course, everybody's situation's different and all that. You know, I hope I don't have to keep giving that disclaimer. So I just want to be open to you guys as you guys see this process unfold. And then hopefully, you know, when I do finally deadlift 700 pounds, you know, the goal next is 680, that then it's even that much more rewarding knowing that, you know, I worked through this gradually, logically, and then you see the payoff from doing that, you know, from taking that long-term approach. But that's it, guys. Make sure to like the video, support the channel, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace. Let me really put my soul into it.